We are just over 1 week away from Election Day, where Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican former President Donald Trump will compete for North Dakota's 3 electoral votes in the November 5th election.
Voters will also pick candidates from a full slate of federal and state offices.
North Dakota briefly playing a heightened role in the 2024 campaign when Governor Doug Burgum made that short list to be Trump's running mate.
But North Dakota historically has not attracted much attention in general elections and has a long track record of supporting the Republican nominee.
Here's a look at what to expect in the 2024 election in North Dakota. In the United States Senate race, Republican U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer facing a challenge from Democrat Katrina Christensen in his bid for a second term.
Republican Kelly Armstrong, Democrat Merrill Pepcorn, and Independent Michael Coachman are looking to succeed Burgum as governor.
Further down the ballot, voters will decide ballot measure 4, which would abolish the state property tax, and ballot measure 5, which would legalize recreational marijuana.
Some other big races include U.S. House, State Senate, State House, Auditor, Insurance Commissioner, Public Service Commission, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Treasurer, and additional ballot measures.
Early voting begins tomorrow in North Dakota. You can find more information about that on our website or your free VNL News app.
And getting Americans